What's up, trainers? My name is Net, and we're taking a look at our third round battle in the Draft Classic Junior Division between my home team, Ecruteak Firebirds, versus fellow competitor, Snowpoint Snorunts. First, a quick recap of our competitors. Returning from back-to-back victories is the Sandcore Ecruteak Firebirds, with beginnings of a record that must be defended at all costs. The previous week's match versus Buffalo Salandits showcased the versatility of what a Sand team can offer when put on the defensive against a mighty offense like Haxorus and Darmanitan. This week finds the Firebirds in a similar situation against a far more subtle, yet infinitely more deadly challenge in the form of Snowpoint Snorunts' roster of unpredictable fighting-type Pokemon. At the same time, a powerful counter to defensive star Tapu Fini approaches in the form of Rotom Mow, the Firebirds' own Rotom Wash's evil twin brother. Will the Firebirds be able to think on their feet and make it through Week 3 with a record intact? The Snowpoint Snorunts, while lacking an obvious theme to their roster, possess a lineup of Pokemon built solely out of versatility. On offense, we have fighting types Hitmonlee and Infernape, two Pokemon with wide move pools capable of covering weakness and pressing offense in ways not usually expected from the typing. Infernape, possessing the infamous Fire Fighting type and access to powerful Poison and Grass type moves, makes this martial arts monkey a force to be reckoned with. On defense, we have the Dark Poison Absolute unit that is Skuntank and Levitating Mow Rotom. These defensive pivots are able to dismantle momentum through crippling status inflictions and powerful type combinations that give them the edge versus popular defenses. Versatile special brings include the likes of Empoleon, Aromatisse, and the lovable OG Dragon type, Dragonite. The featured Mega is the incredibly fast, ability-stealing Mega Alakazam. The Snorunts will need to bring their A-game if they're to find victory within the sandstorm of the Firebirds' Big Three. The Firebirds are faced with a unique challenge in this week's match. The defensive strategy needed to be adjusted for handling threats of a special and physical nature. At the same time, the fighting type would be in abundance in this week's match to blow holes in my offensive core and threaten a reverse sweep. With this in mind, how did the Firebirds stack the teams this week? Let's take a look at the picks. Excadrill has returned to the surprise of no one this week, with some targeted changes to its stats, this week featuring a Jolly nature with max attack and speed EVs, barely outspeed a Jolly unburdened Hitmonlee and deliver a KO with Earthquake. Swords Dance replaced Shadow Claw this week to prevent possible Wish Stall from a Taunt-immune Aromatisse. Life Orb was dropped this week to make room for a Choppleberry, to prevent Mach Punch from securing an easy knockout mid-sweep. The always faithful Stoutland rushes in this week with stat spread designed to rival powerful foes like Dragonite and Mega Alakazam. His move pool once again changing to make the most of my opponent's weakness. Ice Fang, Superpower, Crunch, and Retaliate make the set this week, with Choice Band being replaced by Excadrill's Life Orb to switch off offensive needs without a retreat. Tyranitar, maker of all sandstorms, returns this week with a brand new set. Finally able to set this monster free in this matchup, the Behemoth Rock Dark type was given an EV spread to maximize offense and survivability, forsaking speed to make the most of its moveset. Earthquake, Avalanche, Crunch, and Protect are featured this week to target down Dragonite, Claydol, and Skuntank. Smooth Rock again found itself onto Tyranitar to make more turns of the weather available to my sweepers should I need to pivot into defense while they do their thing. Tapu Fini has enjoyed 3 weeks of providing the wonderful boon of misty terrain to my sweepers, while using its incredible typing to block the offense of their most common threats. This week features a slightly altered build designed to handle the speed of Adamant Dragonite and stay ahead of the Snorunts utility Pokemon, while tanking close combats from the fighting types. Her set features Knockoff in favor of Taunt, to remove troublesome Shuka and Yachi berries or leftovers. Vikavolt returns with a vengeance this week, no longer outfitted to resist entry hazard damage, and instead given an Assault Vest to complement a bulky EV spread and specialized set. Volt Switch, Air Slash, Flash Cannon, and Bug Buzz give Vikavolt a huge toolbox to disrupt Snowrunt's defenses while being able to happily switch into close combat, Leaf Storm, Psychic, and Shadow Ball. Thanks to this massive bug's high resilience and low speed, Volt Switch is able to drop a perfect answer in front of whatever threat has hit the active. Lastly, a debut appearance by Mimikyu, a personal favorite Pokemon and perfectly typed answer to many of the threats on the Snorunts team. While traditionally an offensive addition, Mimikyu was brought in with defensive capacity in mind, taking no damage from Mach Punch or Extreme Speed and possessing the valuable Disguise ability. Mimikyu is able to set up Swords Dance and pressure with Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, or Play Rough. Life Orb complemented the damage of this jolly-natured set. Preparedness is key in this matchup, and while my Sand Core suffers from a shared weakness to fighting Pokemon, my defensive picks are able to bear the brunt of the offense while pivoting fast, powerful attackers into the active. The previous match's defensive core was selected around the utility of Levitate to avoid popular Earthquake attack. This week is all about pure type advantage and big stats. The idea here is to create the conditions for a clean sweep by Excadrill and Stoutland by removing whatever defense threatened collateral damage in the form of priority attacks onto my rushers. With the team set and battle plan in mind, we head out onto the green. The match begins. Levitating Claydol stares down the Firebird Sandstorm generating Tyranitar, boosting special defense on both sides. Claydol strikes first with an Earth Power, but is unable to bring Tyranitar to even half in this weather. Tyranitar lands a massive super effective crunch to eliminate Claydol on the first turn. Aromatisse pressures Tyranitar out of the active, as Excadrill is brought in to handle the threat. A Swords Dance boosts the mole's lethality as Sleepy Komala replaces Aromatisse. Excadrill makes short work of the normal type with Earthquake, and proceeds to make short work of a major threat Infernape with a second Earthquake, no Mach Punch being delivered. Alakazam appears. Mega Evolving and copying Excadrill's Sand Rush, the Psychic type is able to make a surprise attack on Excadrill with Shadow Ball, and Sand allowing Excadrill to absorb the massive attack. Earthquake makes short work of the Mega. The Snorunts now down 4 Pokemon. Skuntank enters the active and ends Excadrill's sweep by threatening a Sucker Punch. Vikavolt instead enters the active and takes Toxic Poison before Volt switching into Tapu Fini, preventing further status afflictions. A double switch into Tyranitar has Skuntank strike for resisted damage with Poison Jab. Failing a Toxic due to terrain, Skuntank is knocked out by Tyranitar. Aromatisse enters the active and is met by a switch into Tapu Fini. A critical Moonblast sends Fini to near half HP on the switch-in. A Wish is met with a knockoff to remove the leftovers from Aromatisse and reduce its longevity. The bulky Pure Fairy launches another Moonblast, but this time striking a newly rotated Mimikyu and landing a consecutive critical hit into Disguise. Wish is granted, returning Aromatisse to full HP. Mimikyu casts Swords Dance to be able to make a dent in the bulky Cleric's defense, and follows up with a powerful Play Rough while taking consecutive Moonblasts, bringing down the quick Ghost Fairy type. With enough damage already dealt and no chance for Wish Stall to begin, a final Iron Head from Excadrill seals this match for the Firebirds. Immediately, one can't help but notice the one-sidedness of this match. Due to some conditions on my opponent's part, no prep was done for this week's match, and the same team featured by the Snorunts for 2 consecutive weeks makes its return in Week 3. I want to say, this is disappointing. While I do enjoy 3 weeks of victory, I would put that record on the line at the drop of a hat for an enjoyable battle. Win or lose, I always look forward to finding new ways to improve. I'd like to quote Kirby Smart, don't play against an opponent, play against a standard. I'm going to run some footage in the background of a game played against local mad scientist Free, captured during the testing and prep phase for this match. This mock brought the next to final draft of my team against a possible variation of the Snorunt. You might notice, I lose. The point of my quoting Kirby is because despite how this game actually went, I have no regrets in my work to prepare for this battle because I was prepared against a standard. In the back of my mind, I couldn't help but think there existed the possibility that Harbor bring the same team, and if I wanted to, I could just count on that and hope for an easy victory since one was pretty much handed to me anyway. But that's not how I want to play. Doesn't matter whose team or what's on the team, that match gets my respect and its due diligence. The Snowrunts are a weird team with a strange lack of obvious direction, but that is a weapon that they can use in their favor. Infernape is no slouch, and you're mistaken if you think you can predict its moveset. Bulk up sets, nasty plot sets, full physical offensive sets, the added threat of grass and poison type attacks, a physical or special on a base 108 speed Pokemon make this thing truly terrifying. Unburdened Hitmonlee bounces off of my own Misty Terrain by raising its speed to levels that literally only Excadrill can handle. In the background footage, you get to watch this exact Hitmonlee variant sweep my entire team. These 2 Pokemon also share an attack which has been giving me nightmares for days. Mach Punch. Let's talk about priority moves for a moment. I am a Sand team, like grossly so. Sand teams mean huge attacks, tanky defense, but more than anything else, it means speed. 604. That's the kind of speed we're talking about a jolly max speed Excadrill being able to hit in sand. You could build your team to try to compete with that number, or you could subvert the entire mechanic altogether with priority. A single Pokemon with a priority move could mean trouble for my offense. The Snorunts have 5 of them. Mach Punch Hitmonlee and Infernape, Sucker Punch Skuntank, Extreme Speed Dragonite, and Aqua Jet Empoleon. My planning for this match was dedicated to being able to dismantle attacking threats one at a time by double-checking them with offense and defense. Excadrill and Stoutland were able to achieve one-hit knockouts on their targets in testing with ease, but if you do the math, that's 2.5 priority attackers for each sweeper, and in only a single scenario could my offense handle all 5. And that is the build that I ended up bringing. What the test game in the background showed me was that not only were priority moves an issue, but I had underestimated a middle-tier Pokemon like Hitmonlee by failing to maximize my speed stat. Was this going to happen in the actual match? Probably not. But the fact is that the possibility existed, and that was the standard against which I had to build my team. Once Excadrill's speed had been adjusted, the game would have been mine, Stoutland being able to tank anything less than a Focus Blast from Mega Alakazam. Defense was another issue. Rotom Wash was too much a liability due to its grass weakness in the face of Infernape. While I would have loved a second Volt Switcher, what was more important was creating a situation that put neutral pressure on the most Pokemon, while at the same time being able to dodge 80% of my opponent's priority attacks and invalidate a third of their typings outright. Enter Mimikyu, the most wonderful Pokemon ever created. Ironically, Mimikyu was the only Pokemon to faint in the actual match. But without its primary target and no fighting or priority moves to absorb, taking down Aromatisse was a worthy use of time. I wish I had less to say about what could have been and more to say about what was, but sadly the situation just is what it is. Where I find pride is in the handling of Excadrill in the face of Skuntank and Aromatisse. I knew my numbers, and I knew what my sweeper was able to handle from those Pokemon. Skuntank Sucker Punch deals at minimum about 38% to my Excadrill's build, which would have been an unnecessary loss in a league where differential is going to matter. Likewise, Excadrill in Sand takes anywhere between 21 and 23% from a Moonblast on Aromatisse, and cannot secure an OHKO without Swords Dance, or I get Wish-locked and have to pray for a flinch from Ironhead. Not to mention that the thing has already gotten 2 back-to-back critical hits. It's too much to risk, and while I probably wasn't going to lose, it's best to avoid playing Caveman Pokemon if one can avoid it. I'll close out my post-game analysis by quickly remarking that Tyranitar's set was spectacular, and I'm disappointed that I couldn't wow the crowd with a clutch Avalanche onto Sandstruck Dragonite for a massive KO. Also, Assault Vest Vikavolt is so meaty that I am ashamed to say that I have never considered the electric bug type before and couldn't possibly have felt confident in this match without it. Also, did you guys know that Sandstorm fucking cuts Solar Beam's damage in half? Go back and watch the test game footage and look at that. Tapu Fini tanks a Solar Beam in Sand from a +2 Infernape. I had no idea. Sand is broken. Y'all, best weather in the game. Don't play against an opponent. Play against a standard. I prepared for a standard against which I could find a hard-earned victory if I played well enough, and I'm incredibly happy with the Firebirds' performance in this round of the Draft Classic. My congratulations goes out to the coach of the Snowpoint Snorunts, who just earned Aromatisse what is possibly its first ever KO in a draft season. I look forward to a week in which this team can realize its full potential.